I learned something in preparing for this interview that I did
Yes.
not know before. I didn't know that. I mean, I knew Hell's Angels. I always knew that they were kind of like bad boys, kind of cool, badass. But I didn't know that there's some rumors that you like might have to kill somebody to become a part of the Hell's Angels.
That's a myth that
That's not
goes
true.
along with everybody. No, of course not.
So what are the Hell's Angels?
It's a motorcycle club. Guys who get together, ride motorcycles.
You have to be admitted?
Well, you have to. There's a hang around process, then a prospecting process before you become a member. So you have to know someone to hang out first, and then prospect, and goes down the line.
Is it all Harleys?
Well, in the United States it is, but overseas, a lot of guys couldn't get Harleys, and then now a lot of guys I've heard are using. Some guys are using Indians, and some guys BMWs.
Okay.
But back in the day when I was there, it was all Harleys.
So you grew up where?
In the Bronx. I was born in the Bronx, then moved to Brooklyn.
Yep. My dad grew up in Brooklyn too. And so, and we both lost our dads at young ages. You were only 12.
Well, no.
You were younger
I
than
was
that?
actually, when I say I lost my dad, it was when they got divorced.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I was, then my dad lived to 78, and
Okay.
he died in 1998. But when I say I lost my dad, it means that when they got divorced, I was always looking up to my dad, and I tried to follow in his footsteps, being a boxer and everything. And that's when I say, I should have made it a little clearer on the thing, because
No,
people
it's
think
fine. No, 'cause I
I'm 12
watched the
years old and
documentary.
I lost my dad.
No, it was sweet.
Even my sister says, what do you mean?
Well, it sounded like you really looked up to him, and he was.
Oh, absolutely.
You followed his footsteps into
My father was
the boxing
a
world.
great fighter back in the day, in the 30s and the 40s. Years ago, guys had, hundreds of fights. My father had 228 fights back in the day in a 12-year career.
And won most of them.
He won a lot of them, absolutely. He lost 20. But he used to get paid $10 a fight. Now today they're making $400 million one fight.
That's like Jimmy Braddock type.
Yeah, James Braddock, yeah.
Story.
There's there's great fighters like, Floyd Mayweather. He's 50-0, but he's fighting like 28 years.
Right.
There's a guy named Harry Greb back in the day. Floyd went 50-0 in 28 years. Harry Greb went 52-0 in 1 year.
Oh my gosh. Well,
So it's a big difference.
So you decided to follow the old man's footsteps and get into fighting? Boxing?
Yes, of course. Growing up with my dad and his, I was living in the Bronx on Barretto Street in Hunts Point at the time, and it's even in my documentary. I was 5 years old, and this guy Butch, like from the Little Rascals, used to beat me up every day. So I went crying home to my dad one time. He said, "Don't ever come crying home to me. He's going to teach you how to defend yourself." So he pulled out his trunk, and he had all his, his gloves and his robe and his headgear and everything in there. And he put the gloves on me. The gloves went up to my elbows.
Aw.
And he got on his knees and started teaching me how to box.
You learn from the best.
Yeah. So
I noticed too, because there's a big group today that's very into mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu in particular.
Yes.
People are loving. I know Joe Rogan loves it. I know Jocko Willink, he came on the show and said he believes we should all have our kids learning jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely.
Not just for the physical, nature of it and the self-defense, but the discipline, the mental discipline that comes with it.
And the respect.
And how many black belts do you have?
I've trained 8 different styles of martial arts. I first, after seeing Bruce Lee in the Green Hornet, I said I want to be like Bruce. So I went down to Aaron Banks' karate studio in New York City and started taking White Crane and Tiger Claw Kung Fu with Mr. Chin. From there,
You're very impressionable. You saw the dad did the boxing, you did the boxing, and you saw the Bruce Lee. I'm glad you didn't watch Tootsie too many times when you were.
Every time I saw someone like, Steve Reeves, he had, was, I think, the greatest body. I saw him in Hercules Unchained. Oh. And I said, I want to look like Steve.
And you love Superman too, right?
Superman.
Didn't I read that?
Mighty Mouse. I used to
watch that Superman show every day after school. It was in black and white. They'd run the reruns.
Yes.
And
with the original.
Now
George
it would
Reeves.
look so dated to us, right? But it was great at the time.
But,
all right, so you start doing the jiu-jitsu or you start taking the martial arts?
I was boxing for a long time. After seeing Bruce Lee, of course, like I said, I started taking martial arts. And I've trained 8 different styles of martial arts. I went from White Crane and Tai Claw Kung Fu to Chiquita Jiu-Jitsu, Committee Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, BRNS Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, wow. I never even heard of that.
I trained with Renzo Gracie in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So,
do you have a favorite of those? Like, if I'm going to have my kids take jiu-jitsu, which one?
Well, I also did Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, which is a form of everything. Ground, grappling, boxing, everything. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, let's face it, the ones who brought it to the octagon, the Gracies, they first brought it here before, Fertitas bought the UFC and Dana White became president.
Yep.
So it was guys like John Milius, the director. He designed the octagon. And a guy named Art Davie who had the Tough Man contest back in the day. So it was those three, the Gracies and Art Davie and John Milius started the UFC.
So if you've got all these black belts and all this discipline in the martial arts, how long would it take you to knock me out if you wanted to?
I've never hit a girl in my life.
I mean, if you had to, let's say like 30 seconds, 60 seconds.
Boom.
He's flicking his fingers.
So that's true. That's what, his show I did. So he asked me how long would it take you to knock me out. I said it'd be over by now. So
it already would have happened.
Yeah.
Well, you're not afraid of, not a girl, but you're not afraid of punching a celebrity because I've heard there was an incident with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I've had a few.
What happened with him?
That's why I don't work that much.
What happened?
I was just, it was, we got along real well. We were, I was his bodyguard in 1992. And we went our separate ways, and I didn't see him until 6 years later. And he came in with Mickey Rourke and like five guys in Scores. I was having dinner.
I'm familiar with Scores.
Scores.
That's where all the beautiful women went to.
That was back in the
dance.
day. So we had a little argument, and I felt bad because I got so much publicity from somebody else's misfortune. So
how did he upset you?
You just said something to one of the attendants in the men's room when he was in there. Said disrespectful. So I went up to him and. But it happened. You know what? It happened.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
29 years ago, almost 30 years ago. But I don't like to talk about it.
An Italian thing, like you got offended. He offended you. He
insulted
you.
Of course. I mean, you got to. Back up your words. So, and that's what happened.
So you went over and gave it to him.
Yeah.
And he did not.
But it took 17 years for us to talk again. So we're friends now. And
so you
like
go
I said,
over
it
and you punch
so
him out,
long ago.
right? He goes down. No, it's like you don't want to insult him. I understand. It's sweet.
Yeah.
But I mean, most of us, the thought of punching Jean-Claude Van Damme is horrifying.
Yeah.
We'd get punched back and it would not go well for us. You have a lot of experience. He insults you. You take him down. And then there's actually a really fun epilogue to the story 17 years later.
17 years later, yes.
What happened?
I was actually at a Floyd Mayweather when he fought Pacquiao, at the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. And Floyd got out of the ring, went to his family first. I was the second one he came up to. He hugged me, and they had the camera on me. So Jean-Claude was home with his daughter and Bianca. And he goes, "Is that Chuck Zito?" She goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Invite him to my not documentary, invite him to my movie. He just came out with a new movie." So I went, and we saw each other, and he says, "Thanks for coming." I said, "Thanks for inviting me." And we hugged and kissed each other, and it was over after 17 years.
Good for him.
So we're friends.
That's great.
So I hate to bring it up because it was so long ago.
No, you didn't. I brought it up.
Yeah.
It's not your fault. But the reason he knew you prior to that whole incident, you pointed out, was you were his bodyguard. So you took your background and learning self-defense and so on, and parlayed that into like being a celebrity bodyguard. You bodyguarded some of the best.
Everybody you could think of back in the day. Liza Minnelli was my first client.
She's amazing.
So, of course, being around Liza, when I met President Trump, we were at the same restaurants, same clubs, and of course we became friends, and we've been friends over 40 years now. She's
in one of my and my husband's very favorite movies, Arthur.
Oh, that's
She's
great.
Hysterical.
That was amazing.
In that movie. Yeah, she used to be a huge, huge star. We continue to face uncertainty when it comes to the economy, with a perfect storm brewing as Social Security and Medicare hit a breaking point, as the largest generation is hitting retirement. A smaller workforce means a smaller tax base. You pair that with our growing national debt and our rising cost of living, and we could have a very big problem on our hands. So what are you doing now to protect your family for the future? Are you diversifying? Gold can be very useful to you in this. It can be a safe haven in hard economic times. And Birch Gold has a super great reputation, and they will make it very easy to diversify a portion of your savings, if you so choose, into physical gold. Birch Gold will help you transition an existing IRA or 401k in whole or in part into an IRA in gold, and it will not cost you 1 cent out of pocket. Protect your future today. Text MK to 989898 and get your free info kit on gold and a copy of The Ultimate Guide for Gold in the Trump Era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation, just information. Birch Gold has earned the trust of countless Americans looking to safeguard their savings. You just text my initials, MK, to the number 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.